Welcome to Castle Country, where almost all modern fantasy takes place. Castle Country is a top-down society. It's ruled by the powerful who are advised by the wise. Its population is sparse, living in isolated communities grouped around fortified towns, separated by vast, often forested or desert wilderness. Castle Country is benevolently feudal, except when the ruler is bad, when it is tyrannically feudal. There is a strong, but not especially deep social hierarchy. At the top, princes sit in crenellated keeps and princesses sigh in tall towers. Below them, knights quest, supported by faithful squires. Below them, common soldiers guard the walls and roads against bandits and occasional wandering monsters. Then there is a mess of priests, artisans, craftsmen, guildsmen, innkeepers, blacksmiths, farriers and farmers, and sometimes below them a vague miasma of serfs and villeins. Every forest large enough has a resident witch, every mountain high enough a dragon, every isolated bridge a troll. When there is war in Castle Country, it's fought by soldiers but won or lost by heroes. When there is love in Castle Country, it's forbidden by social norms but written in the stars by the gods. Castle Country is literally teeming with orphan boys who have birthmarks and magic swords. It's teeming with runaway princesses and bands of roaming adventurers. There are orphan girls with birthmarks and magic swords and runaway princes too. Oh yes, and there are wizards, who are either benevolent mentors or 3 stages beyond batshit and accelerating. The huge value of Castle Country to the author is that most readers already know it well. It's never shameful to set your story in Castle Country. In fact, there are many existing variations of it, and there are ways to adapt it minimally to your needs that will feel distinctive to the reader, but doesn't require you to spend weeks in deep world building or expend tens of thousands of words showing the world to the reader. Castle Country is a very simple place. It's what most people think they know about history, with a few monsters and more than a little magic. I happen to call it Castle Country because, in the Western European tradition, castles are what dominate the skyline. But around the world there are versions of Castle Country, whether derived from the 1001 Nights or from the Bhagavad Gita, whether from the legends of Qin Shi Huang and his successors or from the Sengoku Jidai. All around the world, certain historical and legendary periods have come to dominate the popular imagination and have influenced fantasy storytelling. This means that the only changes you need to make to Castle Country are the ones that the story itself requires, and this may be as much world building as you need. The reader will fill in the rest of the gaps for you. When approaching a fantasy story, save yourself some effort, but avoid becoming too generic. You do this with 2 simple actions. Number 1, know your personal Castle Country. Spend some time with your own imagination thinking about and exploring the fantasy world that suits you best, where you feel the most comfortable, the most familiar, where you know what glorious vistas await beyond the tree line and what horrors lurk beneath the trapdoor. Number 2, choose the Castle Country that best suits the story that you want to tell. Often you'll already have a strong sense of what kind of Castle Country is appropriate to your story. But the more consciously you adapt it, the more effectively you will tell your story. Finally, to make sure you write a good book, ensure your Castle Country is a real deep world. Understanding in detail how to do this takes time and practice, but you can get a sense of the core principles if you look at my Storyhooks course. It's likely that you will, at some point, need to move beyond a ready-made Castle Country, or indeed want to combine it with a more detailed and original fantasy world building. So I've created 3 further lessons in world building that will help you to frame and explore the main elements of fantasy world building, and I hope continue to reinforce the idea that world building is always subordinate to story development.